We are back. It is the TR27 event. This is the third event in the TR series, based here in Derby, which is, of course, where Core Design started the magic adventures of Lara Croft. Today, we're going to be looking at interviews with Rhianna Pratchett, who is one of the key writers, actually, behind the 2013 reboot of Tomb Raider. I'm going to be interviewing Judith Gibbins, and there's going to be loads of cosplayers. There's over 200 fans here, and it's going to be amazing. So let's take a look. Let's go.
Thank you so much for coming. It always surprises me. I've been saying to people, you're all going to go back to work next week and they're going to ask where you were and you're going to say Derby. Yeah, I know. Some people said it's better than Slough. Take about what you will. Apparently we've got some people from quite far. So someone from Canada in the room? There we go, we've got one. Some people from the US? Yeah. Hey, we've got the Fonz in it. And what about the EU? Everyone else? Not the UK. There we are, we've got them all. So yeah, thank you very much for coming. So the schedule is available on the Tomb Raider Derby social pages on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or X, whatever it's called these days. So that's on there. There's a slight change. So after this talk, there's going to be a slight break. For Rhianna, Steve, and Judith, and the other cosplayers downstairs. So, whoa, someone found a secret. So yeah, so there'll be a slight break, and then this panel. Feel free that if you want to go and have a picture with Judith now for the premium photography, that is available. So you can come and go. That's completely fine. Just be quiet and be courteous to your other attendees. We've got books for sale. We've got Darryl Baxter's The Making of Tomb Raider. It's the second edition, so there's no spelling mistakes. But don't tell, he's not here. It'll come later, but don't tell him. So that's available downstairs at £25. Photography at £20, just with Judith, £25 for the cosplayers. And then, yeah, we've got the autograph sessions, which are included, 2 items each. And I think that is everything. So I think we should get the first people onto the stage. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so our first panelist, because it's not just about the old core games, it's about the new Crystal Dynamics games as well, and the reboot trilogies. So it's anniversary, it's the 10th anniversary of Tomb Raider 2013. Feels like it came out yesterday. So we've got someone who knows a lot about that. So we've got Steve Warr, who's been playing those games, and the amazing Rhianna Pratchett.
Hello there. How are we all doing? We all good? Excited? Comfortable? Hydrated? Well, some of you might have been for last night. Right, yes, welcome. Welcome to the lovely Rhianna Pratchett as well. Thank you very much for joining here. No, absolute pleasure. It's 10 years it's been since Tomb Raider came out, Tomb Raider 2013. Does it feel that long ago?
There's parts of me that feel that long ago, but I think because I worked on the comics and I worked on Rise, I spent a good 6 years working on Tomb Raider related stuff. So yeah, I mean, it really doesn't feel that long.
No, and of course, it being surrounded by that for some time, you've obviously got some quite fond memories of working on those projects, I can imagine.
Some less fond ones as well, but yeah, generally fond.
Okay, so when you were brought on as the writer for the first reboot Tomb Raider, it had been actually in development for about a year, hadn't it?
Yeah.
You weren't there from the very, very beginning. What was the state of the game story compared to how it ended up being in the finished product?
So there was a sort of a rough structure, and it was very rough. I mean, this is the thing about writing the games. You really don't know the state of something you're going to get. You get a box of narrative body parts pushed across the table, and you have a rummage, and it's like, okay, we've got some artwork there, we've got some levels, and then okay, there's a bit of character backstory. And so when I came on board, there was a collection of ideas that they'd honed in on the setting, the amateur setting. they'd obviously spent a lot of time on Lara's look, and they had a little bit of kind of bio ideas, and they had artwork for the main characters, and I think they'd sort of thought a little bit about Roth, and maybe Sam too, but most of the others existed just as pieces of artwork.
Sure.
So there was a kind of rough idea of the story, and a stronger idea of kind of the levels and the setting.
Okay. So with regards to the characters like Sam and all the rest of the Endurance crew, obviously originally you had a bit of a different plan for those characters. There was originally in the script a lot more deaths than what we got in the final product. Like, for example, Sam was unfortunately going to be one of the ones
I'd say in general there were fewer deaths originally planned. So yeah, Sam was meant to die in the original version, and then they just kept killing off so many other characters for gameplay reasons. So it'd be like, oh, okay, Alex has to die, go back to the script, kill off Alex, write him out of every subsequent scene. It was quite emotional actually, and then like the same for Grim, and by the time we'd got to the end, it had just been this cavalcade of death, and we were just like, players couldn't cope with one more death, because obviously, Roth and everyone, I'm sorry for all the spoilers, but yeah, lots of people die, and so actually tonally, those choices made in gameplay changed the tone of the ending, so we ended up actually saving Sam, because players needed to feel that
bit of hope.
they managed to save someone. And I am kind of glad that happened, because we could explore Sam a lot more, particularly in the comics. And I think she is a good kind of foil for Lara as well, and she is a little less buttoned up, and she brings out a different side in Lara, and so I'm kind of glad overall.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of miss those characters, and that's why we did more with kind of Grim and with Alex in the comics.
Yes, because Grim, he brought on his brother,
Yeah.
his long-lost brother, and obviously you got Alex's sister and the apparition of Alex haunting
Yes, that's
Lara.
right. Yeah, because we'd spent a lot of time working on those characters, because originally the multiplayer was supposed to be more character focused. So the idea was that the multiplayer was going to be a bit like Left 4 Dead. So the multiplayer had its own story, and it had quite defined characters, and they were going through their own story, and they'd occasionally cross with Lara's story. And for reasons I'm not sure of, they couldn't kind of get that to work, or they changed their minds. So multiplayer became something very different. But then they had all these character assets, and so we ended up having to try and juggle and stuff all those characters into the main story, and because we only had like an hour of cinematics to do it, there wasn't, and they had to include like lots of little, cutaway cinematics as well. Like there wasn't a huge amount we could do with all the characters in the game, so that's why we used the comics.
That idea about it having a sort of spin-off side story with almost like a Left 4 Dead 2 style of game, I can see that kind of the trails of that being left in the original game, how it basically turned out, with the Endurance crew disappearing off at various points and leaving Lara to it. Would that be possibly some way that would have incorporated that particular element, do you think? Having the Endurance group being part of that?
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of like you would play the single player as Lara, and you meet the crews at some point, and if you were playing the crew, you would meet Lara at some point, and it would kind of intersect quite nicely. I thought it was a really cool idea, but it didn't happen, and we were sort of more focused on the single player, but it just meant that we had a lot more characters to kind of juggle.
Going back to what you said about Sam, and how you wrote for her in the comics, and how it's quite fun. What was it about Sam's character that's made it fun to develop and explore further?
Well, she's as I said, she's a lot less buttoned up than Lara. She's exuberant. She's passionate. She does share a kind of sense of adventure with Lara. They've got kind of a shared history. They went to the same university. They live together. And she kind of brings out a different side of Lara, kind of delight and wonder, and kind of excitement, and a little bit more kind of freedom, and she's someone that cares deeply for Lara and vice versa, and she was a good character because I like exploring humanity in the hero. Like, what does it mean when? How does it change your relationship with your friends if you're constantly having to rescue them from terrible situations?
And when they're constantly getting possessed by Himiko and with that little nuisance.
And it's sort of like it sounds a good character to have allow Lara to have a little bit more fun, because Crystal didn't want me to write her kind of with the pithy one-liners that she had in the previous games, because they felt that it suggested too much confidence, and they didn't feel that she had that at the time, and they wanted to kind of ramp up to that. And I enjoy writing kind of fun dialogue, so I had to like pull myself back a lot from that, and she just got little rhyme moments in there. But I could do a little bit more of the fun stuff in the comics. So there were things like with the arc I did on my own, which is the third of the three. So Gail Simone worked on the first one, Gail and I worked on the second, and I worked on the third. And it starts with her like at night running around the British Museum like it's an obstacle course, and because she kind of works in the kind of artifacts restoration department, and she sort of like balances over the kind of tombs and the relics and things. And I actually went to the British Museum and photographed her route through it, so I could give it to the artist, going, okay, she says hello to this statue, she vaults over this casket, and she jumps down these stairs, she lands on this quote. And so that was a lot of fun to do. And at one point she's dressed as one of the Bennett sisters from Pride and Prejudice, fighting bad guys in the
Yes, I remember that.
And there's one point where Sam brutally assaults someone with a cupcake as well.
Yes, very intuitive and ingenious
yeah.
ways to murder. I like that.
And so there was a lot of, I think she kind of brings out a kind of lighter side.
That's good. Tomb Raider 2013 clearly has a lot of influences for its tone and aesthetics. The Descent being a clear chief amongst them, especially with one scene in particular being a direct homage to it, where she rises out of the pool of blood. It's almost like a shot-for-shot recreation. What video games would you say have influenced your own writing style when you've approached the task? And have there been any other homages in Tomb Raider or Rise that we may have missed?
I really think there's sort of Rambo-esque homages and general homages to that kind of survival genre, cauterizing wounds and stuff like that.
I did think Rambo 3 actually, when she stabs the arrowhead into herself.
But the Descent one actually, because I think that was, they talked to me about it quite early on, and I was sort of impressed that they'd even heard the Descent over a little kind of, it's got a big cult following now, but at the time, a little British indie horror movie. So I was like, oh, okay, these folks are doing things differently. But I'm not sure whether I'm necessarily influenced that much by other games. It's probably like other media.
Sure.
So I spent a long time, I grew up, did a lot of my growing up in the 80s, and that was a great time for like fantasy and science fiction. And so I grew up with like Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor, and I thought like fighting aliens or killer robots from the future. I thought that's what women did.
Yes. Yes.
I got out of the 80s. I was like, oh, this is just a disappointment. That's just how I felt about the 90s. It's just disappointing. So I went into an industry where I could kind of try and make that happen a little bit more. But it's also, I think there's a feeling that influenced me more, and it was that feeling of sheer exuberance and excitement of seeing characters like Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor, and that seeing female characters doing things that I've never seen female characters do before, and kind of like that excitement and possibility. And I wanted to do things with Lara, at least attempt to give players that feeling that I had back then.
And interestingly, the Ellen Ripley reference doesn't really stop with your writing, because in 2013 there's a costume you can unlock where it's exactly the same jumpsuit that she wears, right down to the white Converse shoes as well, which I thought was good. It was very cool. So moving on to what's being said about the whole "I hate tombs" line that was in the original game, which originally was supposed to be an ironic statement that was made for a trailer, but unbeknownst to you, you found out it was actually kept in the game and used. But I couldn't help but notice right after she says that line, she almost immediately contradicts that sentiment and starts geeking out about finding a tomb.
I know it was originally, and that's the thing around game writing, you can write a line for one scenario and then
Yeah.
it's used somewhere else in a completely different context. So I think when it was originally written, there wasn't kind of a geeking out thing, and there was more like space of her just like, okay, I'm here, I'm going to find something else to focus on, trying to think about something else. And it was meant to be like a silly throwaway line, and then it was used like bigger elsewhere, and that's the sort of, it's the funny thing about writing for games actually, I'm not that kind of Croft line, which actually ends up in the movie, weirdly. I wrote that line in my interview, like my audition piece. Yeah, at the time, I had no idea what that kind of Croft was. I just thought, it seemed a fun line. Could be, I knew her dad had kind of adventures in the past. I knew they were still sort of thinking about keeping that, so I thought, I'll put that in. And it's just like, it's kind of, now it's in the game, now it's in the movie. And it was like, it was a line that wasn't fully thought through at the time because I didn't have context. It was sort of like, I'm going to come up with some context for this audition piece.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can just write a line and it gets used in a completely different place or a different capacity. Like, I wrote one version of Lara saying, I can do this. It kept being rolled out because it was like, this is now the third or fourth time she said I can do this. Like,
we get it.
And it was just like, I'd written it once and it just kept, it just entered a dialogue pool and I just kept hearing it.
But it's quite good that it was able to sort of turn that around and actually make it, because I thought it was intentional, the whole thing, the way it played out, because it seemed like that was the whole kind of point of making that line. Wasn't just for a trailer, it was just because like it was just a highlight. Well, actually, that's not true at all, because she's now just like found this absolutely wondrous thing that she's absolutely captivated by.
Yeah, I don't think she was so wild about it. I think she was like a history geek, and there's a really nice little walk and talk with Whitman where they're sort of both speaking out, and it's the kind of history and the people and the mysteries of the past that she's kind of interested in. She's not wild about the kind of death aspect of tombs.
No.
She gets over it quite fast, but she is interested in the kind of the history and the mythology, and so once she sort of starts focusing on that, she kind of relaxes more.
There was a couple of interesting concept arts that depicted Lara and her remaining companions battling Solari on the completed boat. And at one point, towards the end, when she gets the katana with the notes inside it, and she finds out the true meaning about the ritual, we get flashes of conflict over the intercom when she goes to return back to where the Endurance crew are. But when we arrive, it's just basically resolved. Would you happen to remember how this moment was originally meant to go down in the script at all? Or were there other moments perhaps similar that got cut for time in similar ways?
I mean, it was... I mean, again, this is one of the challenges of games writing, is you often write things out of order, or things are sort of, I think maybe one or two of the drafts of the script have been written in order, and then you're kind of diving in, okay, this is being rewritten, okay, this character is now dying, different gameplay is coming into this scene, so this scene needs to be cut or it needs to be moved. One of the scenes I was talking to you about was the kind of quieter campfire scene that we had where the survivors were talking about the things they missed back home or what they were looking forward to getting back to. And that's how Jaffa cakes entered the Tomb Raider world, because Lara talks about Jaffa cakes. And that got cut, and simply because it was actually a really nice scene, and I wish they'd found a place for it, because it was like a quieter moment of just kind of reflection and lightness, and there's not a lot of lightness in the game. But because the action and gameplay around it changed, having a kind of lighter moment in there didn't make sense. But I spoke about it in a Wired interview, and I missed this kind of Jaffa cake scene. And so like Jaffa cakes then got put into like comics. I would bring Jaffa cakes for the Crystal people. John used to give them to his kids who really liked it. Noah weirdly never seemed to eat them, but used to form a small wall around his desk using Jaffa cake boxes. He wouldn't give them away to people, nor would he eat them. He just he had them piled up around his desk.
He knows how to eat food, doesn't he?
I don't believe so.
You've seen him sustain himself, yeah?
I have, yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, he seemed to, it was like a little memorial. Jaffa
Chocolate
cake
sandbag
story.
for weird Jaffa cake, okay. Heaven help if he finds the Jaffa donut versions.
Well.
He might actually eat those. Right, so moving on to Rise, going off of the success of the first reboot game, and also fresh from writing for the comics, you went from a team of 2 to a team of 4 people, and you were pegged as the lead writer. How did that affect the creative process when compared to 2013? Did it make things easier for your intended vision to get across, or a little bit more complicated?
In general, I think more complicated. I tend to think of the games as the reboot had more heart, but Rise was more polished. So we opened up the script earlier for feedback in Rise, which was quite traumatic. And I don't necessarily think it was done for the right reasons. It was done because of the changes. Because of the gameplay changes in the first game, it tonally changed the script. And so the script had to be kind of redone at the 11th hour because of the gameplay changes changing the tone of it. And I think they thought that if they opened the script up earlier, that would stop that happening. But it was never a fault of the script. It was gameplay changes coming in, changing the tone of it. So it meant that you're opening up the script early in your early work to people that aren't used to reading scripts and the development process of the script at any stage. And so that meant we were getting a lot of feedback from loads of different places, and of course we were Microsoft exclusive at the time, so we were getting feedback from Square Enix, from Microsoft, from external contractors, from the team, from about 5 or 6 different sources, and thankfully John Stafford was there again to tank the feedback and take it, go, okay, we're gonna take this one, we're gonna ignore that one's stupid, that one makes no sense, that one conflicts with that one, so we're gonna go there, and he would just so that we could kind of concentrate on doing the work. But yeah, it was, I'm not sure, I think it allowed for more polish, but I don't know whether that necessarily made for a better story. I don't know, it felt like the weight of expectation was somehow greater on the second game, because we it was, it's a difficult second album.
Yeah, of course.
It felt like we didn't really, we were kind of just doing the best we could, and there wasn't so much of the laser focus on the first game. And I think we kind of naively hoped that, we've done well on the first game, maybe they'll just leave us to it to do the second. Go, no, it's Alex, Aaron, all the time. And so that was quite hard, and it was quite kind of hard on all of us. It was nice having more people to write with, and I think that kind of benefited it and led to a more polished product.
I bet you've mentioned before in other interviews that writing for the comics was something that you found more creatively freeing, because you didn't have the Eye of Sauron watching over you the whole time. What was it about the comics that specifically you enjoyed the most when coming to write it? And obviously, when you came to write the comics as well as the story of Rise at the same time, was there a kind of a clear plan for both, or did it kind of just organically happen in tandem with each other?
Yeah, I think I was writing Rise at the same time maybe Gail was working on the first arc of the comics. So by the time I was writing the third arc on my own, I knew what was happening in Rise, so I could put in a few little links into Rise, and that was a nice thing to be able to do. But yeah, like I said, it was being able to explore the characters that I hadn't really been able to do in the game, and just be able to have more fun with Lara. And I love the the cover image for the first the first story in my art, which I think is also the cover image for the collected art, which is her like vaulting over the bust in the British Museum. She looks happy. She's smiling. It's like Lara does not look happy a lot. It's just like it's such a wonderful image because she's kind of looking happy and free and herself.
Yeah, which is good. Which is good. Going back to Rise, when it first got announced, we saw brief glimpses in the debut trailer of a post-Yamatai Lara struggling to deal with the trauma at that moment of her life and how it left on her. In the game, it seems very much like she's moved past that and trauma, and his focus has shifted to her relationship with her family, specifically Richard. Was PTSD something that was ever going to play much of a part in the larger role in the overstory, or was it just a moment that was written specifically for the trailer?
We wanted it to, like John and I wanted it to. We wanted it to be more focused. I mean, I've said this publicly, I was not a fan of the father storyline. I felt that was, like, she's been through so much shit in the first game. Like, she's got enough to work, like, she doesn't need the father backstory, but it seemed to be a bit of a hangover from particularly the older movies. And I think also with her Lost Diary in 2013 was more father focused, and that I'd written about 6 possible different ending diaries, and I think like one of them was the father one, and like no one went that one. I was like, oh no, I wish I just like made it a mum or something like that, a little bit different. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of that because I felt like she's got her own stuff. She's like, her view of the world has been changed forever. Her view of herself and what she's capable of has been changed forever. Let's work with this.
Yeah.
But they, and I kind of understand this reasoning partly. They were like, we want this to be able, like, players that haven't played the first game to be able to understand stuff from just playing like the second game. So they wanted the second game to be very self-contained, and so they didn't really want to hark back to the first game. But I'm thinking
it's a bit of a shame,
yeah,
because she already technically lost another father figure with Roth,
yeah,
didn't she? Which is kind of like the big moment for her that in that game, which I thought was handled really well. So then going from that to another one is like she's losing 2 dads.
yeah. I would have liked to have focused this around what she'd been through, and I think you know, we talked about at one point having almost like twisted versions of some of the levels and experiences in the first game that you kind of play through that are sort of like nightmare levels that she's kind of going through. Because I think a large percentage of players would have played the first game, and if they hadn't, you were giving them a kind of like, you know, interesting nightmare levels that would have more resonance with players that would play the first game but would still work for players that would just come into it. But yeah, I was resoundingly outvoted, and the father issues went in. I did actually manage to stop there being like Anna being they wanted Anna to be Lara's stepmother. I was like, you can't have father issues and a wicked stepmother. You have to choose. And like,
get you, my pretty.
they still made it seem like she kind of was. I mean, she does actually say, like, you know, I would marry your father if he'd asked. So she wasn't actually her stepmother, but it was just like, yeah. I found peace with it because I sort of channeled a little bit of my memories of my dad into Lara's dad, and that kind of helped me, because you got to do your job at the end of the day.
Yeah,
you can't like spend your life fighting battles. You just have to do the work sometimes. And I found some peace with it by kind of merging a little bit of my dad's memories into Richard's memories. So there was this little segment where her dad would write to her as a kid, and he'd written to her about the night she was born, and it was a sort of a riff on my father's memories of the nights I was born, because he'd said in an interview, my father had Alzheimer's, that this was the memory he didn't want to lose, and so I thought, I'm going to put that in the game for him. And that sort of like, that pulled me a bit closer to Richard. And so it made me feel like, okay, I didn't want it, but here it is, let's make some peace with it and do the job.
Yeah, well, that's really, really sweet. And you, just sort of going a bit off piece, I'm going to talk about a game that you recently worked on, where you were basically the lead writer for an indie game called Lost Words Beyond the Page, which you say to me was a very personal project for you because it's about the journey of grief. Could you tell us a bit more about that and how it was for you?
Yeah, it's about a young girl going through grief for the first time, and it basically is kind of like a two-world game. So you play part of it in her journal in real life, and she's very close to her grandmother, and her grandmother has a stroke and goes to hospital and eventually dies. And her grandmother has given her a book, like a blank journal, because she wants to be a writer. So she decides to write a story for her grandmother while her grandmother is in hospital. And so she starts sort of chronicling in the journal like what she's going through in real life. And then she also sort of starts writing a story for a granny, and even when a granny passes away, she keeps writing a story. So part of it, you're running through the journal, running over the lines while they're being narrated, and then you can basically move words around in the journal and create platforms, and you can take a watering can doodle and put it onto an acorn, and the acorn grows into a tree and pushes something up, and it's like a little platformer. And then you can kind of go into the page, into this sort of side-scrolling fantasy world that she's created. And it's all sort of themed around the stages of grief she's going through in real life. So things like the bargaining level is much more about balancing puzzles, and the art and the music and the colours. So the anger level is lots of reds and all bombastic characters and music, and so that we used everything to kind of reflect the mood, and we worked with the Wellcome Trust and child therapists, and learned a bit about how they deal with children going through trauma. And yeah, it was a really interesting one to work on. It's a lot about how we keep people alive through memories, and her memories of her grandmother, and I'd lost both my grandmothers at the time. And yeah, it sounds quite depressing, but it's quite sort of hopeful. It is sort of like, people make marks on us and they become part of us. And it was a little indie game, but every few weeks someone comes and tells me how much it meant to them, or they played it with their family, and it's opened up questions and things like that. And there was actually Franny that had come to me, and she was the carer for her granddaughter, and she said, I'm playing this game and with my granddaughter, and my granddaughter's very worried about the grandmother. And I'm like, okay, I've got to tell you this. And I told the granny, this is what's going to happen. And she was like, okay. And I said, just kind of warning you. And she said, and I don't know, she said, I'm going to continue playing. She sort of reported back. She said, yeah, we've been playing it. And my granddaughter's gone upstairs, and she's playing very quietly with her toys, but I think she's going to come to me with some questions. And it was a nice way of allowing families to talk to each other about loss and death and that kind of thing. And that's something we're not great about talking about as a society, really. It happens to all of us, and we're so hesitant to talk about it because we like to pretend that it doesn't.
No, we'd like to sort of brush that under the carpet. It does look like a very sweet game. I must admit, I will be sort of adding it to my Steam wish list.
Yeah, it's
playing
great.
it later. But what other platforms can people pick it up on if they're interested?
Most, if you go to if you just Google Lost Worlds, you'll come up with the site, and it's pretty much on everything now. I think you can get it on Switch.
Yeah.
It was I think on Microsoft Arcade, definitely on Steam. It's for a younger audience I normally write for, but it was a really nice game to
Yeah, it does look like it's been pretty well received, which is good. So do you, now that you've had some time away from the series, since Rise, what would you say when looking back at your work on those games? Do you look back upon them fondly? Would there be anything that you potentially do differently? How has the overall reception been for the stories for those games for you?
Yeah, I think in general, fondness, it was such an honour to be part of it. And at the time you don't really think about it because you're just in the thick of it doing the job, and you're not thinking too much about how it's going to be received, and I think, yeah, it was definitely, I think Rise was definitely harder, narratively speaking. There were definitely challenges with the first game, but it felt like, you know, as I said, the weight of expectation was greater with Rise. And I wish that Crystal had got to finish the trilogy, and I think I would have been involved if they had. Because, you know, they started it, we got like 2/3 of the way through, and then it kind of went to another studio, and I think there's certainly people in Crystal that would have liked to have finished it off and seen Lara through. So I think that was a little bit of a shame. But yeah, I'm still kind of in touch with John, and we talk every now and then. And yeah, we sometimes sort of touch base with like Noah or Tim Longo, who used to be the franchise director when I first joined. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of surprises along the way, reactions from players we didn't expect, like both good and bad. I was always like really touched when people would tell me how the game had affected them in real life. Like they'd seen Lara like pulling herself up by her bootstraps and realising that she had to save herself and no one else was going to do it, and that had helped them like get out of abusive relationships or like even go to the gym. And it was just like if you can affect someone in the real world, like you never go in thinking, I think this is going to be good for people that are going, even with Lost Words, which is literally about grief, we weren't thinking of it as some kind of therapy tool. We're just like, here is an experience here, and like this may resonate with you, but you know, the stories of when it touches people in real life. You know, I have a friend in the Tomb Raider community who realised that she was gay because she read Tomb Raider slash fiction with Lara and Sam. And it was like, oh, I'm so delighted about that. It's like, like I said, yeah, and that sort of thing is kind of amazing, and all the artwork and the cosplay, and it's such a great community as well, and it's so wonderful to have been part of that.
That's fantastic. Now, the series has begun to move forward with unifying everything, core design era, first Crystal, your reboot era, under one Lara and one continuity. There's been lots of speculation as to where they're going to go with this, what will remain canon, what this unified version of it will be like. Some say that it should return to the more fantastical and isolated roots of the original games. Some say they should continue with the storytelling and the action focus of the current versions. As an outsider looking into the series now, what would you hope to see from this unified version of Lara? Where would you like her to go? What sort of person would you like her to be?
I think somewhere in people have often divided reboot and classic Lara, and I don't think there are as many divisions in them as sometimes people see. Like I felt that classic Lara was always going to kind of turn into more. Reboot Lara was always going to kind of turn into more of a classic Lara later in life, but we focused on her at a time in her life where, you know, all the qualities that we associate with Lara, the kind of bravery, tenacity, resourcefulness, were just being tested for the first time. So she didn't have the guns and the gadgets to kind of deal with everything. It was all kind of rough and tumble and just experiencing these for the first time. But I could easily see her kind of morphing into something that's more like classic Lara. I don't know, I'm kind of glad I'm not dealing with that problem of how you unify everything.
I can imagine.
And I'm not sure, I don't quite know why they're doing it or how they're doing it, but yeah, it's going to be a huge challenge. But I like having, I hope that they've learned stuff from the reboot games, about how to land a character moment better, and that was something that we'd had some issues with, particularly on the first game, and something we were talking about. They'd chosen to do a more human Lara and have her react in a more human way, but at the same time they weren't giving those moments space to land. So we were kind of talking about the first kill, which I talked about a lot in interviews, where you know, there was a scene where she hears Ross, and I can't remember, I think it might have been the first time she's heard Ross and she's realised he's alive. And she says to him that she's had to kill someone, and he said that can't have been easy, and you know Ross kills people, he's buried a few bodies in his time.
Ross seems like the type of person that would kill someone who took their cup of tea, or made it incorrectly, so...
Yeah, and the bodies would never be found.
No.
So she's confiding in Ross, he said that can't have been easy, and she said it's scary how easy it was. And that was like, for me, writing her, that's the break. That is the break in who she thought she was and who she's coming to realise she is. And like that psychological thing where you realise you're capable of things you never thought you were capable of. And, you know, it was originally done as a cinematic. She was kind of like clutching the radio, and she gets more into a more fetal position around it, and it was supposed to be an emotional scene and kind of really landing the emotion of having gone through that. It's the first time she could reflect on it with another person. And then between that first kill and reflecting on the first kill, the gameplay team put 34 deaths. So she'd gone around a corner and just started shooting, and we were like, but this is just mugging the moment. You wanted this characterful moment where she's like, it's really impacting her. You're kind of robbing that if she's then going on a shooting spree. And they're like, okay, we'll reduce it to 16. I was going, that's still the same. And then they put this kind of impactful scene, like, in gameplay, she's climbing the ladder going, yeah, I had to kill some people, Ross. And it's just like, oh my God. And, you know, I was also talking to you about what I would have done if I didn't have the power to do it. And that's like, I would have had to throw the gun off a cliff. It would have annoyed players, but you'd understand it from a character point of view. And then have her continue a little bit on without any weapons. And then she's got a point where she sees a gun and she makes a choice to pick it up. It's not forced on her. She knows she's capable of using it, and she makes a proactive choice to pick it up, not a reactive choice. And it's like landing is the other side of that moment. So she's broken, she doesn't know who she is, she's making that choice. And that's kind of how I would have like solved it. But you know, hindsight is all 2020, and I had a lot of time to think on that. And so I hope that they'll have these character moments and let them breathe and land them properly. You can have loads of fun and as much like puzzle solving or shooting as you want, but you've got to land these character moments.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. It does kind of turn a bit into Time Crisis when she kind of gets the first kill. I was just like, oh, and then she just kind of goes, oh boy, here I go killing again. And just fight back the tears whilst landing perfect headshots. But I completely understand, because it is one of those sort of struggles that I think a lot of writers do go through. The whole ludonarrative dissonance term was coined because Uncharted did the same thing. Like you said, to me, it was based on how the character was handled and how much breathing room those each moments get given as to how impactful they are. And I agree with you. I think if they did give Lara a moment to be able to breathe, take it all in, make it a bit more impactful.
Yeah, and make it a proactive choice, not reactive.
Yes.
And I think that's actually how Lara kind of develops as a character, certainly between the first two games. In the first game, she's reactive. In the second game, she's making a choice to go after, like the secrets and the mysteries. And I think even with her artwork in the cover artwork on the first one, you can see her. She's holding a shoulder like that. And she's kind of looking down, and it's very sort of thoughtful and characterful. And I think with Rise, she's holding the light stick and she's kind of looking up. And it's sort of like just what those positions are saying about how she's feeling and as a character, I think were really interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's one of the things that really drew me to it was the kind of artwork for New Lara. It's something that I kind of hadn't seen before. It was so full of character that it really drew me to the project.
It must have been really different compared to what she was like back in the 90s. And one thing that I did pick up upon in one interview is that you said that you actually, considering it's the 20th anniversary of Tomb Raider 3 at the moment, you attended the premiere, the launch party of Tomb Raider 3 at the Natural History Museum with your father.
Yeah, I was my father's +1.
Yeah, and you apparently made your first industry contact there. What was the whole vibe around Tomb Raider like back then compared to here?
mean, my Dan played more of the games than I did. Like he played. I think because he liked to play the games first. Like I don't know if he just wanted to like check them out before he passed them on to his daughter. But like I think we just had one copy, so he would always play it first and then pass it down to me. But he spoiled the T-Rex in the first game. He told me about it. He was so excited that he had to come and tell me about it.
That's a
Why
bit
he
of a shame.
played it myself. And I think he played two, and then he some of three, and he used to joke in an interview about how much fun he'd had following Lara's bottom around, like Lara down. Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of jolly and fun. I mean, I wasn't a fan of the way she was marketed in some ways. I think it did me a bit of a disservice as a gamer because I didn't like the kind of all nudge, 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 wink, wink, your girlfriend will be jealous you're playing with me kind of vibe to some of
Those
the
adverts were so
adverts. And it kind of like, it just put me off as a younger gamer. It's like, oh, fuck this. And, you know, and just go and play other games. Like, you know, it just annoyed me a lot. Sorry, I didn't ask the question.
That was fine. Fuck it.
And yeah, and so I played the first game, some of the second. I'm not sure if I really ended up playing that much of the third, but what a great location for a launch party.
I can
Yeah,
imagine.
I met a guy called Dan Emery, who then went on to be the reviews editor for PC Gear. And PC Gear was the sister magazine of PC Zone, and so I ended up doing a little bit for PC Gear, and then I became the editorial assistant for PC Zone, which is the UK's longest running PC games magazine.
Nice.
And that's like it's been a breeding ground for a lot of games writers and writers in general. Like Charlie Brooker was an ex-PC gamer, PC Zone writer and gamer, and Martin Corder, Mark Hill, Will Porter have all gone on to games writing as well.
Yeah. So one other thing, I've got a couple of questions left for you. One of the things that I thought was interesting was you spoke with Chris Radecast, wherever he might be. There he is. There he is! And he talked about how you were an advanced open water diver.
Yeah.
And you really enjoyed underwater fictional locations like Atlantis.
Yeah.
Very curious to think what your thoughts on Core Design's interpretation of Atlantis was back in the original 1996 game.
I don't know that much about it.
It was kind of like travelling down a lower intestine.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It was basically it was like a womb because
Right.
Nat was birthing all of these creatures
Oh.
with no skin.
Right.
Interesting choice. And compared to stereotypical iconography of Atlantis, where it's all lava, it's got runes and then water, I just wondered if you remembered that.
I definitely think fewer wounds. I mean, I kind of see Atlantis being more like some of the, whether it's like kind of Aquaman style cities
Sure.
and things like that.
Yeah.
They're real like kind of sunken ruins where some bits are, you know, there's caves that are kind of fully open, because that's like, I've done a little bit of cave diving with my scuba, and like, you know, it's not all underwater. You go up into caves, and sometimes you get chinks of light and stuff, and you can get all sorts of exciting environments underwater and open areas. And you know, in the fighting fantasy book I wrote, Crystal Storms, you actually play part of the story underwater in your little bathysphere, exploring kind of caves, and there's like a sunken part of the city that's fallen out of the sky, and you have to go into that, and you have to go through some water areas and cave areas. But yeah, how I imagine Atlantis is kind of like a lot of the kind of classic ruins that Lara discovers, only more underwater bits, and swimming, and sharks and stuff like that, and
Drastically different from what they did back in the day.
Yeah. I think it was there an Indiana Jones game that was in Atlantis as well.
Fate of Atlantis.
Yeah.
Point-and-click adventure. One
Yeah.
of my favourites.
I think that's maybe in my head I've been mixing up with that, but that's the kind of thing I see, and even the scuba diving got into some of the Tomb Raider stuff where Sam punches the shark and that came from actually diving, which I did not punch a shark, but I was like ready to if I.
So you're not going to be in the Meg 3 then?
I am a really big fan of shark movies. I have actually a small group of friends and we watch shark movies together. Where we've had to like diversify from shark movies to other aquatic creatures. So like alligators, crocodiles, large fish, that sort of thing.
So you've seen things like Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus?
Some, yeah, some of them. We're still kind of like exploring that. I'm a big fan of like Deep Blue Sea. Crawl's a really good alligator movie. The like 47 meters down and things like that. And my partner now dives, so anything that's got any kind of diving.
Fantastic. Maybe I'll try it one day if I'm brave enough.
It's amazing.
It does sound like it would be quite a good time, unless there are sharks involved. I don't know whether I'd be able to punch them or not, or I'll just swim away or get eaten. So lastly, I just wanted to ask, so anyone here who might be potentially looking to getting into writing for games or the creative industry at large, or just writing in general, what advice would you say to those people today?
Oh gosh, that's a whole talk in itself, really. I mean, it's
Have we got time, Luke?
it's difficult because I got in a very sort of specific way that I'm not quite sure exists in the same way now. So I got into game journalism, and I got into magazine game journalism as well, which is quite a you know, there are a lot fewer magazines around than there were back then, and it wasn't quite the dying era of game mags, but we were on the edge of it. But journalism was useful to get in because you got to dissect games in a particular way. You got to see how their games were developed as well. You got to talk to developers about different aspects of the game. You got to preview it. You got like behind the scenes looks at it, and I think that all really helped me. But it's not really a viable career anymore because it's simply really badly paid. It wasn't great paid back then, but it's actually got worse over the years. And there's so much competition. Like if you were working on starting a magazine, it was not great, but you could sort of supplement your income by trying to write for as many other magazines in the publishing house as possible. So if you've got one game, you'd go, okay, I'm reviewing this one game, okay, I'm going to do it for PC Pro, I'm going to do it for like PC Shopper, and Dennis had a number of magazines that they were either game focused like CMVG and things like that, or they were kind of computer focused and they had like game pages. So if you're lucky, you could maybe utilise your review and do some freelancing to like 3 or 4 magazines. I used to write for The Guardian as well, but yeah, it wasn't you're never going to get rich as a games journalist. But now there's a lot more, I said there's a lot more websites, but I don't think the pay is that great either. So it's a little bit difficult. I think it's a good way of getting to know the industry in games. I think there's a lot more software out there to try your hand at things. So I think the Inkle engine or the Ink engine from Inkle Studios. I always forget whether it's Inkle Studios, Ink engine, or the other way around. But they did 80 days, and you can use their software to kind of create, to kind of play around with game narrative. And things like kind of Game Maker, and there's various kind of free tools out there that you can sort of play around with that I never really got a chance to kind of use. So I mean that it's kind of difficult. It's probably more easy to give advice about being a writer in that in general you just have to like be a sponge for stories and for people and read. No one really talks about reading these days. Read books, read newspapers, read anything you can get. Like, talk to people, be interested in the world. Like, enrich yourself as a human being, and like practice writing, hone the craft of writing. You have to like read and experience media around games. Like, it's important to play games and see what's going on. But you want to bring some more to the table. So you've got to have life experiences. You've got to try and understand the world. You want to try and get viewpoints. You want to have something to say, and so you need to kind of be broad in your approach rather than just like, I want to write for games. I'm just going to play games. So do everything else, and then you're going to come with a lot more like originality to it. So I think that's a little bit more how you kind of create a writer. How you create a game. Like there's finding indie studios, going to conferences and making contacts and making friends as well, and just sort of building that kind of network, I think is very important. And that's where being a journalist was useful, because I had a network that I could kind of go to. And there were so few game writers when I started doing it. I was just like rocking up to like the developers whose games I like, going, hello, I'm doing this now, please may I have some work? And like they were like, well, okay. And that's really how I got a lot of my early stuff. It's a little bit more sophisticated now.
Yeah. All I was just left to say is a massive thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to be able to talk to you, and I wish you all the best in the future.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Rhianna Pratchett, everyone.
No fridge today? No fridge today.
Go in the fridge.
So the Hunger Club are here. If you haven't seen these guys before, they're at most retro game hunts. Really nice t-shirts. Hey, how are you? And of course the Tomb Raider stuff. Got the artwork, got the shirts. It's fantastic. I'm gonna get a shirt, I think. And we got the pins as well. Check it out. And the stickers. It is all good in the hood. Even hoodies. Sadly not zip hoodies, that's a shame. But yeah, we got the t-shirts at 25, hoodies at 40, sticker packs 3, posters £7.
Players ready to come to the stage. But we've got 2 experts, 2 pros in the cosplay industry. We've got Rachel and Jack. They know more viewers and formula. One to take the mic, now to talk to our live, come to the stage, maybe we'll have some music playing, who knows? And we'll be judging it, so myself, Chris from Raycast, and Jill again will be your judges today. There you go, guys.
Hello. How's everyone doing? Got some wonderful questions. So,
Indeed.
who've got first?
We have got Dr. John Oakland. Yeah, everyone sees a fridge.
Right, next up we have Kate Sykes. Scott Yellowstone.
One day she's going to put it on the spotlight.
Here you guys out, go on. Leather clad. Beautiful.
It turns on, it turns on.
There you go, see?
Now it's all this.
Strut it, strut yourself. Yeah. Next we have it. Amazing. Next, do we have Scott? There he is. And are we Vernon? It's Vernon and Green. can't see it.
Amazing.
Amazing. Antarctica. This is amazing.
Behind you, Matt.
I love. Just make sure you show off the tattoo. That is detail, that's attention to detail right there. That's so cool. Here we have the Midas touch. Amanda Aiken. Do you have Jackie?
My jacket.
There he is. Give it a pose, give it a pose. Next up, we have Paul Imrie as another Nevada. Yeah. I love the addition of the hat as well. Next, Nico.
Go on, Nico.
Come on, you. Hi. South Pacific.
Which one people really win this week actually?
Yes, quite enjoy. So the very good advice.
Aaron Beatty. Nevada.
Everyone loves Nevada.
Next up, we have Lee Blythe as a costume that's very out of the ordinary as gender bend Sophia Lee. In your next one. Next, we have Emily Jane, another Antarctica outfit. Let's stop. Thank you for coming. Oh, I'm so sorry, I got Scots mixed up. This is a Scott Burge as Dr.
The
Willard.
big fan himself. From the big fan.
And Jack! Reading the tomb another day. Oh, wait, don't. Here they are.
Take a seat, take a seat. Can you use this one as well?
Yeah, sure.
Use that one as well. It's okay?
Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. Hi. Judith is back. So, I'm kind of saying, you're back because you were, of course, here 2 years ago at the TR27 event. How does it feel to be back in front of these awesome Tomb Raider fans?
Amazing, actually. I'm really humbled. I mean, I can't believe how many people came to have the pictures taken with me. But it was fun for me as well because I got to get the guns and do all that business as well. So that was great fun for me as well. So yeah, brilliant. Love being back. Love it.
Excellent. I can really feel that energy there. I love it. So for those that maybe didn't attend the TR25 event or aren't quite sure, we're going to rewind back to the beginnings of Tomb Raider 2. And I'm curious to know how you got the role of Lara Croft. What was that process?
Well, the process was my brother, who works at Core Design, said that they were looking for a voice for Lara Croft, which I didn't know who she was, and people have probably heard this a million times. So I'll try and make it interesting. So he said, they were looking for a voice, would you like to come down and audition? And I was sort of like, well, who is she? What's she all about? So naive, sorry guys. And anyway, so I went down to Core Design and I said, oh, is that her? Oh, right, okay. And then it's just, well, what does she sound like? Or what do you want me to sound like? Or, that sort of thing. And just to say that she was quite well-to-do. I think she was from Wimbledon, that sort of thing. And so I did the line, well, I won't say it now, I'll say it later. And,
We have a plan.
and then I said, oh, can you play it back? And, you know, because I've got quite a deep voice, I think I've said this before, so I just raised her up a little bit, you know. And then I think I got told the same night. I think I got told the same night, and then I think we were in London the next couple of days, starting to record, but I didn't know anything about it. You know, I was just given like literally a few scripts, and I don't know what's happening, what she's doing. But you know, I was just like, no, yeah, okay, I'll do it, whatever you say. You know, so, yeah.
So it all happened really quickly then, to the
Yeah,
point where
it
they
did.
literally
Yeah.
kind of got you back within a couple of hours and said, yep, you
Yeah,
are Lara
yeah,
Croft.
yeah.
How did that feel?
Well, I just went, oh yeah, okay, because I didn't realise what a big,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
thing it was. But after then, it sort of like started to click. Oh, you know. And then of course, when we went to like a lot of recordings, I was like, you know, it's really. I mean, we were talking. I think I was talking earlier with you, Gemma, that. I'm glad that there's no outtakes out there, because there'll be a lot of beeping.
And my response was, I would love to see the outtakes, actually. So I know you said you kind of weren't quite sure about who Lara was, but Tomb Raider, so the first game was a massive success. Did you feel, once you kind of understood what Tomb Raider was, did you feel any pressure coming off the back of the success of the first game?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, Shelley, she's obviously the original and did such a wonderful job. And it's like, oh well, right, how do I follow it? Well, I've just got to do how I'm going to do it. But I've said this before, they tell you how sort of they want it to sound, or want her to sound, or, you know, but, and I've said this before, I'm sorry I keep saying this, but, you know, if I could do it now, I'd obviously do it a lot more, different, but it's done, and that's the way it turned out, so.
Yeah. Excellent. Side question, have you played the games?
No, well, everybody knows this. I can't play it. I've tried to play it and I can't play it. So well done to all you guys out there. I watch people play it on YouTube. I watch the two husbands play it. Hi, Chris. So that's really entertaining, guys. Sorry.
So what was the kind of briefing on Lara Croft? Were you shown any kind of concept art of the levels? I know you mentioned about seeing the scripts. Was there anything else that kind of helped you to adopt that role of Lara?
No, not really, because they were sort of still, what I can remember, still sort of going through the script, what they're going to write. Because Tomb Raider 2, there wasn't very much to say. And, you know, so I was just given pages and say, right, say this. I didn't know what she was actually doing, and I was so naive, I didn't ask and sort of think, oh, you know, do this. But Nathan, you know, Nathan McRae, he was brilliant with me. He was just like, trying to explain a bit, you know, try and do it like this, and, you know, try and do it like that. So, yeah, he was a great help, actually.
So you had good mentors kind of
Oh, yeah.
all along this kind of journey for you
Yeah,
then?
but the lady who wrote was it Vicky? Sorry, I'm so sorry, I can't remember. No, yeah. They kept changing the sort of script every now and then, but there wasn't a lot of, as I remember, there wasn't a lot of guidelines about like, oh, she's here now, and what she's doing now, she's, you know, that sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you mentioned Shelley there, of course, Shelley Bond. Did you have any conversations with her going into?
No, not at all. I only met Shelley a couple of years ago, and Janelle, when we did the mobile phone version. So and that was a brilliant day. Yeah, we got really well.
I've seen things online. It did look pretty fun, actually.
It was great fun. Yeah. And like, I was going, oh God, you're really good. And she's going, oh, you're really good. Oh, you're really good.
So you were comparing lines.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh,
well, we were listening to each other and, oh, that's really good. Oh yeah, you know. And that was really, really special. That was special. That was.
Excellent. So I'm kind of curious as to if there were any differences in voicing the lines for Tomb Raider 2 versus the kind of stepping into Tomb Raider 3. What was that kind of shift like?
I think there was a lot more to do in Tomb Raider 3, but also in between I had a lot of the instructions to do. So it kind of got into a sort of a rhythm, you know. So yeah, and there's a lot more to do. So it's a lot more interesting as well.
Yeah, I've seen the script, and there seems to be a lot of kind of notes on, you know, there's more kind of scene setting and describing the environments you're in. It was very interesting. I believe it's online. I'm sure Luke might mention that if people did want to read that script. But yeah, so this kind of next part then, I thought we'd try and have a bit of fun and potentially embarrass myself here. So there's multiple parts of this. So the first one is, are there any parts of either script that really stick out? And the second part is, can you give us your best Lara Croft line from But there's more. There's more.
Well, I always say this line because it was my audition line.
Go, and then I'm going to repeat it, and you can judge me how bad my Lara Croft impression is. Go for it.
Pardon me, if that was just your way of trying the doors for me.
It's so weird to hear it, because if you close your eyes, it's like, it is Lara, it's unbelievable. So can you judge me on my kind of attempt here? Okay, I might get the words mixed up, but okay. I've got it. Say it again. I just want to hear it again, okay?
Pardon me, if that was just your way of trying the doors for me.
Pardon me, if that was just your way of trying the doors for me.
Who knows what the next time is? It wasn't me.
Not anymore, so up to you.
But before that, doesn't somebody say, with a tummy gun, I'm making you boom?
Wow, we have some real script nerds in here. I absolutely love it. That's
well
great.
Well done, guys. Well done.
Yeah, nice one. Fantastic. So, okay, that's great. Thank you for that. I know I'm going to put you on the spot pretty much there. But so, kind of next then, was there anything that you didn't perhaps enjoy about Tomb Raider 2 voicing or Tomb Raider 3? Was there kind of anything that you're like, I can't do this anymore, this is not me? Or what was that like, if at all?
I think we were talking upstairs, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? The worst thing for me was the breath. You're taking a breath when she comes out of the water. And they didn't like how it was done. And then I came in London, so I came back to Derby and I went down to do it again. And they were trying all different things like, you know, and then and I'd be in one room, and it was Pete Connolly, I think it was, yeah, that wrote music for the others. And he'd come in and go, no. We tried all sorts, and I don't think they used it. I don't think it was me, because it was just, no, I just couldn't do it. It was one of those things. It just sounded stupid.
I think this. I'm glad you've raised the kind of the topic of sound effects, because I think it's quite a favourite part, or a quite famous part of Tomb Raider, the different kind of ominous sounds of Lara.
Yeah, because you get like one word, like say this word so many different times, and we'll choose one. And you know, that's, you know, there's how many ways can you say or you know. But yeah, it was the breath. I couldn't. No, I'm sure. I don't know who did it, but well done.
Does anybody know?
It was Shelley.
It was Shelley.
Oh,
yeah.
right. Okay, so it was Shelley's one.
I think they used it. Yeah.
Heather Gibson as well a little bit.
And Heather, yeah.
Of
so
course.
It's a combination of two.
So it was, yes, I was very, no, I wasn't good at that.
It does sound like quite a difficult sound effect to imitate, actually. I don't think I'm going to embarrass myself and copy that on stage.
Well, I've just embarrassed myself.
Shall we give it a go?
Yeah, I've already done it.
No, you could. No, we'll leave it there. You're the expert.
No.
Okay, so obviously we've just had the recent announcement of the initial trilogy that's going to be released in February on the PlayStation, the Xbox, and the Nintendo Switch. I'm curious to know if anybody's kind of contacted you regarding promotion and how you feel knowing that your your kind of work's going to be heard again by a brand new generation of gamers.
Yeah, that's fascinating actually. That is really good, and I wonder how they'll feel about the new generation that listen to Camilla and the new stuff. How they feel when they hear the old stuff, or whether they'll think, oh, like when you're younger and you watch a film, you think, God, that's really good. And then 30 years later, you go back and watch it and go, do you understand what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So I don't know, but I think it's really interesting. I think we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Well, do you own a Nintendo Switch? Do you have would this be your time to maybe venture into this?
No. I think the saying is you have two left feet. I've got two left hands. There's absolutely nothing there, I'm afraid. No coordination. Leave it to the professionals.
But Tomb Raider's stretched so far, hasn't it? I mean, do you?
Yeah, definitely.
What does Tomb Raider as the global phenomenon? What does that mean to you, Judith?
I don't think it means it's. I just think it's proud for Derby. I just think for this small group of people that designed this game in core design, which was a not particularly big building, and they worked so hard on it, and to think that it's global, it's I don't know, it's just amazing, and to be part of it was fab, my little part of it.
It's a huge part. It's a huge part, and no, you're right. I think the core team was so small. I think it was 6 people that really ignited this global brand, this IP that we have now, and you were a huge cog in the wheel. So
I don't think people realise how hard that they actually worked. I mean, I know you've heard people on the panel say it before, but sometimes it's 24 hours. Because they wanted it out in I think a year's time, which sounds a lot, but it's not when you're programming things and stuff like that. So
Brilliant. So we're here, 2023. Are there any parts of Lara that resonate with you on a frequent basis?
Well, no, because I'm quite. I was going to say I'm quite shy, but not. I don't sort of say. Oh, guess what I did when I was. No.
Oh, well, I would.
No.
Hey.
No, my sister. A couple of you might remember my sister. She was going, oh yeah, she did this and did this. And, oh, really? So then I had this. Can you say this for me? Can you say that for me? Can you do that for me? And I said, yeah, of course I can. Of course I can. Yeah. But
is there a line in particular that people get you to repeat?
There's one. No, I think the line that they don't like me saying is no. That's not right.
Brilliant. It was so common when we can all relate. You get to a wall and you try to hit the switch, and Lara says,
"No." Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's not right.
Brilliant. So, in terms of looking back, then, are there any kind of special items or trophies or any cool things that you got to keep and take home in your Lara Croft treasure trove?
Yeah, I've got a few things, not many. I've got a T-shirt.
Nice.
It's a black one.
Nice.
Black one, yeah. Pack of cards. Pair of pyjamas.
Love it.
They were men's pyjamas, but they were commissioned for MS, so they're not big. Little sweatshirt, a baseball cap, which at the time I used to wear on holiday, so it was ruined. And that's about it, really. I just kept all my notes and things from that, and a few. When I had a camera, it was one of those ones. So I've got photographs of where I sort of went, and
Would you ever considering publishing those photos? I don't, do you have a Twitter or an X as it is now? Is there anything where we could, as fans, maybe see those things?
I don't know, because I'm not really au fait with mobile phones and stuff like that. Because actually, guys, I'll just tell you that I've been hacked on my Facebook and my email. So if anybody has been trying to contact me I'm sorry if you've been, proper people, but I've got to sort that out. So, anyway, sorry, back to your question.
No, I think that's a good
so sometimes I have to be very careful, like anybody has to be careful. So at the moment I'm trying to sort that out. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, and that actually is a nice segue into this question about fans. I know you really appreciate your fans. I sat here on the TR25 panel, and you've often said how humbled you feel about the community.
Very much so.
How does it feel knowing the impact you've had on people's childhoods? Video games help a lot of people with mental health and trauma.
Yeah.
And I think Tomb Raider's it's a huge part of people's lives, and you've been a part of that for us. So how do you process that?
I'm just like, I keep saying I'm humble. I just think, I know where you're all coming from, because I suffer from depression, I always have had. So I have ups and downs, and different things help me through phases of...
We love you, Judith.
Oh, thank you. But, it's so nice to hear that it helped. Do you know what I mean? Because if you suffer from things like this, anxiety, depression, all the rest of it, but you've got people like the cosplay people, the fans, you can get together, you can chat, and you've got something in common, and kind of brings yourself out of yourselves a bit more, and you don't feel so alone. I think so that's kind of part of it. So yeah, I totally understand all that. Yeah.
So I think it's fair to say you've helped a lot of people, and I'm sure we'll kind of get to that, because we will do some audience questions very shortly. So if anybody does have anything, we'll kind of hopefully get those questions to you in a short while. But I thought it would be nice to kind of end my little segment on a quick fire round. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only 5 statements, and you've just got to pick one. Okay. Now some of these might seem a bit odd, but again, did anybody we have a hands up for anybody that was on the TR25? Okay, so there's quite a few. I would say 15-20% of people. So some of this will probably resonate more with you guys. Okay, so Judith, pick one: Tomb Raider 2 or Tomb Raider 3?
3.
3. A Ford Sierra or a Lara Croft-esque style 4x4?
Oh, can I choose another one?
Go ahead. This is about you. What would you go for?
Porsche 94.
Beautiful. Derby or Malta?
That's an impossible question to answer.
And we will explain the Malta link in a minute, but... Sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's got to be Derby.
Brilliant. One gun or 2?
2.
This next one is a contentious one. Pineapple on pizza?
Oh, God, no. Definitely not.
Show of hands, pineapple on pizza. Brilliant. So before we move to the audience questions then, Malta, I know we've spoken about Malta earlier today, and you did bring it up as a place that's quite close to your heart. What is it about Malta for you, Judith Gibbins, that's so special?
My dad was in the army, and he was posted out there when we were younger. And in fact, my brother, who's in the audience, is going to kill me now, but he was born in Malta. He was down here. It's been a big part of our life since then. We go back every year. Most of us go back every year. Mum and Dad lived out there for 18 years until we brought them back over. And it's just a special place. Yeah. I love it anyway. So I think people say it's one of those places that you love or you hate.
Yeah. I've never been, but I've listened to things you've said before about it. I think that sounds really nice, actually. So
I do like it. Yeah. And they do make a lot of films in Malta.
but will they base a Tomb Raider game in Malta?
Well, I don't know. They did Gladiator. They did World War Z.
Yeah.
They've done lots of things.
Wow.
So
Would you go back to voicing Lara?
I would, but I don't think it would be as fun.
Why not?
I don't know. I don't know. Do I still sound as young as I did?
Absolutely. You are like, you know, the line earlier, it was just like, it's like, and when you said no, there was this, I can't explain it, but it's a feeling that I know I got. I don't know about you
I
guys.
think it would have to be if people wanted it.
Do we want it? Of course we want it. Yeah. Let's get you a trilogy. Let's get that third game. So, but it is a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you. No, it really is, and I think you're awesome, and I'm so glad. I think, like many people, are glad to have you back. So, before we move to audience questions, can we get a big round of applause for Judith Gibbins? Of course, James, got a question.
Hi, Judith.
Hi again.
See you again. My question is, so you talked about the remastered trilogy that's coming out next year. Is there anything that you would change about the games that you was in, like if the story towards the end or anything?
No, I don't think so, because I didn't really have anything to do with that. You know, as I've sort of like said before, I didn't know quite what the story was, you know, what each scene was really doing. So I think I'll leave that to the writers and things.
Of course, you put your hand all the way in.
Oh, of course.
Get those hands right, people.
Hi.
Hi,
I
Anne.
was just wondering, what was the moment that you really realised that Tomb Raider was such a big thing? Because I remember you saying when your brother had said to you about it, you didn't really know who Lara was. When was the moment when you thought to yourself, oh my god, like this is huge? Was it like when the movies came out, or when?
No, I think it was when I was invited to the big E3 in Atlanta. I thought, what's going on? You know, that when they promoted Tomb Raider 3, I think that was. Yeah, that was like, whoa, it's amazing. But going on from that, like I've said before, I wasn't allowed to tell anybody who I was.
Oh.
So I was wandering around, you know, and then I did my little bit in the cupboard, like I say, and you know. But that's when I really thought, wow, yeah, that's something that really hit me.
Hi Judith.
Hiya.
Nice to speak to you. I can't believe it. It's an honour. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned that if you could go back, you would change things. What sort of things would you change vocally about Lara? Are there any lines in particular?
I think it's I would like to have known, like I've said this example before, when she's fighting in London on the top of the buildings. Sorry. And I just went, oh, you might like to, you know, mind the bell sort of thing. But I didn't realise, like, I've been fighting, you know, so perhaps, you know, oh, do you know what I mean? Act a bit more, I think it was, that's what I'm checking. Sorry.
Hi Judith, you okay? Sorry.
Hiya, hi darling, hiya.
Hiya. Just a quick one. If you didn't voice Lara, would you have gone into voice acting, or would you have wanted to voice another character?
No, I don't think I would, no. No, it was just one of those opportunities, you know? Yeah.
Hi there, Judith.
Hiya, darling.
We meet again.
Okay.
Do you think that you were different before you voiced Lara, and do you think you're different after you voiced it? Do you think the experience changed you in a certain type of way, or better or worse? Or?
That's a really good question, actually. Through the whole experience, I did learn a lot, and and I travelled a lot as well and met a lot of different interesting people, and it gave me a lot more confidence in myself. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Hi there.
Hiya.
So going back to when you two were comparing voice lines with each other, would it be possible for the both of you to possibly reenact the conversation between Lara Croft and Sophia Lee?
I mean,
can't remember.
do you have a script?
Yeah.
Not in hand, but Miss Croft, I take it you're ready to sign on.
I'd need a full script if you.
Too old for it.
I think that's a bit difficult. Sorry about that, love.
Great question, though. That's what I'm saying.
Hiya. I was wondering, while developing while developing the Tomb Raider games, has anyone walked you through the entire story of the games that you were working on? Like, do you know the whole story of both games?
Like I said before, because I've been watching The Two Husbands, so I've been getting to know I know The Jungle, and a few others, yeah, and yeah, I'm getting to know it even now, still learning, because I can't play it, you see.
Hi Judith, you okay?
I don't know if you remember this, but maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, I put on Facebook how the end of Tomb Raider 2 was quite similar to the end of Scarface, where all the bad guys run into a home without the cocaine mountain and money launderers. And I wrote on there, wouldn't it be great if Judith would say hello to my little friend? So
in a Lara Croft voice.
What, in Al Pacino's voice?
No, not in Al Pacino's
Oh.
voice. I was wondering if you could give us your best Lara's say hello to my little friend. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
You got this.
Say hello to my little friend.
Yes!
Hello, Judith.
Hiya.
How are you keeping? So I love really mundane, pointless information, and I'm very curious about the actual recording sessions for the voice acting. Do you remember roughly how long those sessions would have went on? Do you have any idea of, like, was it a week? Was it, a month long? Was it one day and a load of hours? Was it a full night? Did you ever do overnight sessions? Or was
No, never did overnight. A lot of times went to London. I mean, we sort of like do them in a day.
Okay.
But then if we needed anything sort of like refreshing or whatever, we'd do it at core design.
And have you any rough idea of how many sessions you would have done?
Oh dear, no.
Was it many or a little, do you think?
Yeah, quite a lot. Because apart from doing the Tomb Raider scripts, they had me doing like, which I don't know if they've ever been published, but I had an interview with Crash Bandicoot, but he was on screen, do you know what I mean? And then Altar, and lots of other things which I can't really remember.
TV spots and things like that.
Sorry?
Promotional material.
Yeah, and of course the Lucas in it, but they cut all of the speaking out of that.
Also, I'm going to just ask you, just because it's one of those lines that will stick with me forever, being a whatever 10-year-old kid, boy, when Lara says, "Don't you think you've seen enough?" Saying that. Cheers, thank you.
Don't you think you've seen enough?
Hi, Judith.
Hi, Chris. You alright?
Very, very good. Looking around everyone now and being here 26 years later, if you could time travel back to just before you started to voice Lara, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, wow. Do it better. No, be more confident and just go for it, yeah.
Hello, Judith.
Hiya.
Alright, would you be happy with lending your voice to custom levels? And with the advancement of AI, what are your thoughts about having a generated version of your voice in fan projects?
Oh, I don't know. Well, yeah, if you want to use it, yeah, use it.
Isn't she nice? One more. I see you.
Get any steps in then?
My last one, you are?
Yeah.
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say I met you downstairs.
Yes.
First time ever.
I remember.
You were such a lovely person. You were humour now with the video from my mum saying thankfully happy birthday.
Oh yes, I remember.
You mentioned about you're struggling with depression. I just wanted to say I hope you're doing well and you're a lovely person and I was privileged to meet you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, please. I'm going to make clap again. Big round of applause, please.
I need a few seconds of your time to tell you about channel memberships. If you guys want to become a channel member, click join from the main page or the second link in the description. There are 3 tiers, all with different perks for you if you want to become a team member. Thanks for your time. Let's continue with the video.